If you discover this secret, you'll never look at school history the same way again. Ready? This is the story your textbooks never told you. 4 million years ago, before cities, before kings, and even before the first spoken words, the earth was raw and untamed. Among the vast grasslands and jagged mountains, a small band of Homo sapiens awoke to face another day of survival. Inside the dim light of a rocky cave, a man stirred before dawn. His pregnant wife lay beside him, her breath slow and heavy. Outside, the wind howled, carrying the scent of rain and the distant cries of predators hunting in the dark. He moved quietly, careful not to wake her. With rough, weathered hands, he fed the glowing embers of the fire, coaxing them back to life. The faint warmth spread through the cave, chasing away the icy bite of the early morning. Nearby, a few other members of their group lay curled beneath furs, their bodies exhausted from the previous day's search for food. But the man's mind was restless. He knew his wife's time was drawing close, and danger lurked in every shadow. He stepped outside into the pale light of dawn. The world was still, but the silence felt heavy. In his hand, he carried a long stone spear, sharpened by hours of patient work, his only weapon against the brutal world beyond the cave. His wife slowly emerged from the cave, clutching her swollen belly. She smiled faintly, but he could see the strain in her eyes. Together, they began walking, accompanied by a few companions, moving cautiously across the uneven, rain-soaked ground. Unseen by them, a small group of other Homo sapiens followed at a distance, their intentions unclear. The man sensed eyes on them, but he did not speak. Instead, he kept scanning the horizon, gripping his spear tighter with each step. They stopped at a shallow river. The man knelt, cupping his hands into the cold, rushing water. He offered it to his wife, who drank gratefully. Her breathing was uneven, but she smiled at him, and for a moment, the danger seemed far away. The moment didn't last. From behind, the following group approached quickly. 2 men grabbed the pregnant woman's arms, pulling her away. Her cries echoed across the valley as her husband lunged forward, roaring in fury, but the others blocked his path. Far ahead, in another part of the valley, a different group of Homo sapiens dug into the earth, searching for food. With crude tools, they unearthed small, starchy roots, potatoes buried deep in the soil, their only hope for a meal that day. Small children among them squealed with excitement, holding the muddy roots high like treasure. The elders quickly cleaned and split the potatoes, handing pieces to each hungry mouth. In this world, every bite was precious, every scrap a gift from the earth. The pregnant woman's captors brought her to this group, forcing her to sit among them. She clutched her belly, her eyes darting in fear. She searched the horizon, desperate for a glimpse of her husband, but the crowd kept her hidden. Her husband, breathless from running, finally reached the edge of the gathering. He saw her there, frightened but unharmed. The others noticed him, and for a moment, the air grew tense, spears raised, eyes narrowing, each side uncertain if blood would be spilled. An older woman from the group broke the tension. She offered a piece of roasted potato to the pregnant woman, speaking softly in their ancient tongue. Hunger was a stronger force than hostility, at least for now. They ate together under the open sky, the rain clouds above slowly gathering. The man sat beside his wife, his arm wrapped protectively around her shoulders. Every few moments, he glanced at the strangers, unsure if their kindness was genuine or fleeting. As the last of the food disappeared, the group began to disperse. Some headed towards the hills, others toward the river. The man signaled his wife to follow him. He led her along a narrow path, away from prying eyes. They stopped at a small clearing. The man pointed to a patch of shelter beneath a leaning rock formation, a place he had once used to hide from predators. Here, they could rest until the storm passed, away from the others. The first drops of rain began to fall, darkening the dusty ground. Lightning flashed across the horizon, followed by the low rumble of thunder. The woman shivered, and the man quickly helped her to her feet, urging her to return to the cave. By the time they reached the cave entrance, the rain was falling in heavy sheets. The inside glowed faintly from the fire they had left smoldering. The man guided her to the warmest corner, placing fresh sticks on the flames until they roared. She sat beside the fire, breathing heavily. Pain twisted her face, sharp and sudden. The man knelt before her, his hands trembling as he brushed the wet hair from her eyes. Outside, The storm raged on, matching the turmoil inside the cave. The woman's cries echoed off the stone walls, each wave of pain sharper than the last. The man held her hand tightly, whispering words of comfort in their primitive language. His eyes betrayed fear. He knew childbirth could take life as easily as it gave it. Other members of the group gathered near the fire, their faces lit by the flickering light. Some offered water, others only watched silently. The storm outside pounded against the cave entrance, as if nature itself bore witness to the moment unfolding inside. Hours passed. The pain ebbed and surged like the rising river outside. The man's back ached from kneeling, but he never let go of her hand. In the darkness, the weight of survival felt heavier than any spear or stone. Finally, exhaustion overtook them both. The woman's breathing slowed, though the pain lingered. The fire crackled low, casting long shadows on the walls. One by one, the others in the cave drifted into uneasy sleep, their dreams filled with the sounds of the storm. Hit that subscribe button right now, or you'll forget this story forever. Morning came reluctantly, pale light seeping into the cave. The rain had stopped, leaving the air damp and cold. The man rose first, stoking the fire before stepping outside to breathe the sharp, clean air of the new day. He returned to find his wife resting against the cave wall, her eyes closed but her face calmer. A few companions prepared to leave, gathering spears and stone knives. Today, they would hunt, because hunger never waited, not even for the sick or weak. And the man hesitated. He wanted to stay by her side, but he knew food was life. Gently, he promised her he would return before the sun set. She squeezed his hand in silent trust, though her eyes still held unspoken worry. They set out together, him, a few strong hunters, and his pregnant wife walking slowly beside him. Every step was deliberate, every sound from the forest triggering ancient instincts to fight or flee. The land was beautiful, but beauty here was only skin over danger. And they reached a dry riverbed, where loose stones rattled underfoot. The man paused, crouching low, examining fresh tracks in the mud. Antelope, perhaps, fast, but worth the chase. He signaled for silence, his spear poised, eyes scanning the tall grass ahead. The woman leaned against a large rock, her breath shallow. Another wave of pain gripped her, and she bent forward, clutching her stomach. The man noticed instantly, dropping his spear to rush to her side, brushing sweat from her brow. Her face was pale, her lips trembling. He whispered that they needed to rest, but she shook her head, determined to keep moving. In this world, stopping too long could mean being found, by predators or by desperate men. The group pressed on, weaving between trees and low shrubs. The forest was alive with the rustle of unseen creatures. Overhead, clouds thickened again, dimming the light and bringing with them the scent of more rain. By midday, they stopped in a small clearing. The hunters spread out, scanning for movement while the man stayed close to his wife. She sat on a fallen log, closing her eyes as he rubbed her back in slow, steady circles. One of the hunters returned, holding a handful of roots dug from the earth. Not much, but enough to give them strength for the walk back. They shared the food quietly, the sound of chewing the only break in the silence. The man broke his portion in half, giving the larger piece to his wife. She accepted it with a faint smile, chewing slowly. He watched her carefully, noting the way her hand lingered protectively over her belly. The distant roll of thunder returned, soft at first, then louder. The man knew they had to reach shelter before the storm broke again. He rose, offering his hand to her, helping her to her feet with gentle urgency. And the path back to the cave felt longer, each step slower. Rain began to fall in light drops, cold against their skin. The hunters quickened their pace, scanning for any sign of danger in the shifting shadows. By the time they reached the cave, the rain was falling hard. Inside, the fire still smoldered. The man guided his wife to the warmest spot, placing fresh branches on the flames until the heat filled the chamber. She lay back, breathing heavily again. The man sat beside her, his hand on her stomach, feeling the movement beneath. He spoke softly, his voice a mix of hope and fear, willing her to hold on just a little longer. The night passed slowly, marked by the sounds of rain and her uneven breathing. Outside, the forest was a black sea of shadows. Inside, the firelight flickered across their faces, each heartbeat a silent prayer for survival. At dawn, the storm had passed. The world outside glittered with raindrops, every leaf and stone shining under the pale sun. The man stepped out briefly, scanning the horizon, as if searching for a future still uncertain. He returned to her side, bringing fresh water cupped in his hands. She drank slowly, her eyes fixed on his. In that moment, they didn't need words, only the quiet understanding that they were still alive, still together. The other hunters began preparing to leave again. There would be more food to find, more dangers to face. The man knew their journey was far from over. He tightened the leather cord around his spear, readying himself for what lay ahead. As they stepped outside, the pregnant woman moved carefully, her hand always resting on her belly. Behind them, the cave grew smaller, swallowed by the vastness of the land, a reminder that home here was never permanent. Together, they walked toward the horizon, the man slightly ahead, watching every shadow and sound. In the distance, the call of wild animals echoed. And so, the story of survival continued, carried forward by love, fear, and the endless will to endure. If you liked this, stare at the subscribe button for 5 seconds and watch what happens.